Namaste and welcome. Navaratri Day 3 and the Devi Mahatmaya Chapter 5. Om Pavitra Pavitrova Sarvavastam Gatopiva Yashmare Pandarikaksham Sabhyabhyanta Sushi. Om Gam Ganapataye Namo Namah. Om Sri Gurubhyo Namah. Om Savamangala Mangalye Shiva Svadasadike Sarinye Trayambake Devi Naryane Namostute. Om Jayanti Mangalakali Bhadrakali Kapalani Durga Shama Shiva Datri Svasvada Namostute. Jaya Tvam Devi Chamunde Jaya Bhuti Taharani Jaya Sarvagate Devi Kalaratri Namostute. So this brings us to chapter 5 and the beginning of the third section of our scripture. The first section, consisting of one large chapter, was dedicated to Ma Kali. The next chapters concerning the slaying of the Trian. There we go. Show to you. That's an old Arisen style painting. And the third installment, which concerns the fighting of two demons, Sumba and Nisumba, whose names mean self-conceit and self-deprecation. And that section is dedicated to Ma Sarasvati, the goddess of creation and wisdom, just as the middle section had been dedicated to the preserving principle, Mahalakshmi. So chapter 5, application. Om, presenting the concluding episode The reliever of the suffering is the seer. The great goddess of all-pervading knowledge is the deity, that is Sarasvati. Anustup, that is the meter, is 32 syllables to the verse. Bhima is the energy. Brahmari is the seed. Sun is the principle. Samaveda is the intrinsic nature. That's its scriptural source. The pike of concentration, the plow, sowing the seeds of the way of truth to wisdom. The conch of vibrations, the pestle of refinement, the discus of revolving time, the bow of determination, and the arrow of speech, whose radiance is like the moon in autumn, whose appearance is most beautiful, who is manifested from the body of she, who is rays of light, and the support of the three worlds, that the great ego of all-pervading knowledge, who destroyed self-conceit and the other thought demons, we worship. Jai Ma. Om Klim. And the seer said, in olden days, there were two thoughts, Sumba, self-conceit, and the demon Nisumba, self-deprecation, who with the abundance of their excessive self-conceit robbed the rule of the pure, the husband of the power that rules and the master of the three worlds, of a portion of sacrifice. Those two assumed the dominions of the light of wisdom and devotion, the Lord of wealth, the power of control, and the Lord of equilibrium, and made them subservient. The effects of emancipation and the light of meditation were also removed. These two defeated gods assumed their authority and spoiled the kingdom, and with disrespect all the gods were put out of heaven. Having thus been insulted by these two great thought demons, the gods remembered the invincible goddess and thought of the boon the mother of the universe gave to them. In any time of adversity, if you remember me, then there I will eradicate your every distress. Thinking thus, the gods went to the king of the mountains, Himalaya, and there began to extol the goddess, the supreme Lord, in the great measurement of consciousness that pervades all. And the gods said, we bow to the goddess, to the great goddess, to the energy of the infinite goodness. At times we bow to nature, to the excellent one. With discipline, we have bowed down. To the reliever of sufferings, we bow to the eternal, to the embodiment of the rays of light, to the creatress, to she who manifests light, to the form of devotion, to happiness continually, we bow. To the welfare, to those who bow, we bow. To change, to perfection, and to disillusion. To the wealth that sustains the earth, to the wife of consciousness, to you we bow, we bow. She who removes difficulties, to she who removes beyond all difficulties, to the essence, to the cause of all, to the perception, and to the doer of all, and the knowable one continually, we bow. To the extremely beautiful and to the extremely fierce, we bow to her, we bow to the establisher of the perceivable universe, to the goddess of all action, we bow. To the goddess in all existence who is addressed to the in this perceivable form of consciousness that pervades all, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence, reverence. To the divine goddess in all existence who resides all throughout consciousness, it is known as reflections of the mind, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence, reverence. To the divine goddess who resides in all existence in the form of intelligence, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence, reverence. To that divine goddess who resides in all existence in the form of sleep, Reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence, reverence. To the divine goddess who resides in all existence in the form of hunger, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence, reverence. To the divine goddess who resides in all existence in the form of appearance, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence, reverence. To the divine goddess who resides in all existence in the form of energy, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence, reverence. To the divine goddess who resides in all existence in the form of desire, we bow to her, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence, reverence. To the divine goddess who resides in all existence in the form of patient forgiveness, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence, reverence. To the divine goddess who resides in all existence in the form of all living beings, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence, reverence. To the divine goddess who resides in all existence in the form of humility, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence, reverence. To the divine goddess who resides in all existence in the form of peace, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence, reverence. To the divine goddess who resides in all existence in the form of faith, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence, reverence. To the divine goddess who resides in all existence in the form of beauty enhanced by love, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence, reverence. To the divine goddess who resides in all existence in the form of true wealth, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence, reverence. To the divine goddess who resides in all existence in the form of activity, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence, reverence. To that divine goddess who resides in all existence in the form of recollection, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence, reverence. To the divine goddess who resides in all existence in the form of compassion, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence, reverence. To the divine goddess who resides in all existence in the form of satisfaction, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence, reverence. To the divine goddess who resides in all existence in the form of mother, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence, reverence. To the divine goddess who resides in all existence in the form of confusion and enchantment, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence, reverence, reverence. Providing over the senses of all beings and pervading all existence to the omnipresent goddess who individualizes creation, we bow, we bow. In the form of consciousness, she distinguishes the individual phenomenon of the perceivable universe. Reverence to her, reverence to her, reverence, reverence. In days of old, all of the gods, led by Indra, the rule of the pure, sang these verses of praise for the purpose of accomplishing their desired objective, to surrendering the ego in the light of wisdom. And for many days that service was rendered. May she, the seer of all, and the Lord of all, the source of all good, perform similarly for all of it, for us all, auspicious things by putting an end to distress. We gods have been harassed by arrogant thought demons in the manner of humans, and at this time all of us gods bow to the seer of all, who, when bowed to with devotion and remembered in physical image, immediately terminates our every adversity. And the seer said, Your Highness, just as the gods were singing that hymn of praise, the goddess of nature came there to bathe in the Ganges. That supreme empress with beautiful eyebrows asked the gods, whose praise is being sung here? Then from within herself an auspicious form manifested and said, self-conceit and self-deprecation, Sumba and Nisumba, two terrible thought demons, have defeated the gods and insulted them. So all the gods have collected here and are singing my praise. And the mother of the universe emerged from within, the goddess of nature, she who is known to all the worlds as she who comes from within. From the manifestation of she who comes from within, the body of nature became dark and consequently became a goddess who dwells in the Himalayas, distinguished as the remover of darkness. Thereafter, two servants of the demons self-conceit and self-deprecation, named passion and anger, Chanda and Munda, that's going to be a rather familiar name a little bit later, came and saw the extremely beautiful form worn by the mother of the universe. Then self-conceit, Sumba, was told by them, O great king, there is an excessively beautiful woman whose heavenly beauty is illuminating the Himalayas. Such an excellent form no one has ever before beheld. O Lord of thought, please find out who that goddess is and take her. Of all women, she is a jewel. Her every limb is very beautiful, and the radiant splendor of her body is illuminating all of the directions. She is present there. You should see her. Lord of the three worlds, jewels, gems, elephants, horses, the best all shine in your house. Of elephants, you have the jewel, love for all, taken from the rule of the pure. Of trees, the tree of life. Of horses, the horse of wisdom. The most wonderful carrier yoked to the swans of union through the control of the breath, which before was with the Lord of creation, that's Brahma, now has been brought here and shines in your courtyard, the jewel of its kind. Of the 9 treasures of the Lord of wealth, that would be Kubera, you have taken the great lotus of peace, and the ocean has given you a garland of fine lotuses that never lose their luster. The umbrella of the Lord of equilibrium, that would be Indra, which causes gold to flow, stands in your house, and also the chosen chariot that belonged to the creator of beings. From death, you have taken the supreme energy known as moving beyond, and your brother has taken possession of the shining net of the Lord of fluctuation. And the being born of the sea, self-deprecation, Nisumba, has taken the most excellent jewels of the divine fire, Agni himself, purified 2 garments and presented them to you. And, O Lord of thoughts, Lord of the demons, all of the jewels you have taken, best and most excellent, and of all women the finest jewel is the goddess of welfare. Why not bring her here to your house? And the sage said, after hearing the words of passion and anger, Chanda and Munda, self-conceit sent he who appears to be a friend, a thought demon, to a great thought, who is as an ambassador to the goddess. He commanded him, explain this to her with sweet words, so that being pleased, she will quickly come. Then the ambassador went to see the very beautiful area in the mountains where the goddess was seated and spoke in tender, honey-like words. And the demon ambassador said, O goddess, the king of thought, self-conceit, is the Lord of the 3 worlds. I have been sent as his ambassador to come to you. All of the gods have been defeated by him, and all obey his commands. No one can violate his order. Listen to the message he sends you. The entire three worlds is under my authority, and all the gods obey my every command. I personally enjoy a share of every sacrifice. All the finest jewels in all the three worlds are under my authority, and I have taken the jewel of elephants, the carrier of the god, the rule of the pure, the jewel of horses, the horse of wisdom, which produced from all the beginning of creation the gods have surrendered to my feet. O beautiful one, beyond that, all many beautiful jewels that belong to the gods, or to the heavenly beings, or the swiftly proceeding, they all shine now with me. O goddess, we consider you to be the jewel of all women in creation. Therefore, you come to us because we are the enjoyers of all jewels. You of inconsistent gaze, come and serve me with my extremely valiant brother, Nisumba, self-deprecation, because you are like the very essence of all jewels. By ruling my wish, you will achieve great glory. Now use your intelligence to decide if you want to be my wife. And the sage said, then the goddess of the excellent supreme empress, she who removes difficulties thoughtfully, tranquilly, gently, smiling, gave her reply. And the goddess said, all you have said is true without patience or falsehood. Self-conceit is the master of the three worlds and is equally valiant self-deprecation. But in this matter, because my small intelligence, I've already undertaken an oath which I cannot be untrue to. Please listen. Whoever will defeat me in battle, whoever will lose his self-conceit in me, whoever will be the force of the universe in me, will be my husband. So you return to self-conceit and self-deprecation, these great demons. When they conquer me, I will marry what is the necessity to delay. And the ambassador said, goddess, your pride is very great to speak like that to me. In the three worlds, there is not a man who can stand against self-conceit and self-deprecation. Goddess, all the gods cannot challenge the thoughts in battle. What merit have you alone and as a woman? If the rule of the pure and all the gods could not stand up to self-conceit in battle, how will you, a woman, go forth in battle? Therefore, go to self-conceit and self-deprecation, because of what I have said. In this way, you will protect your dignity. Otherwise, you will be grabbed by the hair and dragged, and you will lose your honor. And the goddess said, what you say is correct. Self-conceit is very strong, and self-deprecation, too, a valiant warrior. But what can I do? Without thinking, I've made this promise. Now you go, and just as I have told you, explain fully to the king of thought. Then let him do what he thinks is proper. Om. So, like in the previous section, we have these two demons, Sumba and Nisumba, self-conceit and self-deprecation. And think of how many times in our lives those two particular demons have gotten in the way of our truly being able to express our divine nature. So they've kicked the gods out of heaven, taken all of their treasures, are demanding their share in everyone's devotion and sacrifices. And the gods, in response, have once again come together and invoked the Divine Mother to slay these demons and restore the gods back to their proper place. When I recite the hymn of the gods to you in the middle section of this chapter, I think you'll recognize it. It's a very popular hymn, one of my favorites to the Divine Mother. Just have to get back to the beginning. Om Jai Ma. I invite you to close your eyes. Breathe deeply. Listen to these mantra verses and let them take your consciousness and your awareness to where it needs to be at this time. And let them help in your understanding and realization of the divine presence within. Panchamodaya Vinyoga Om Asya Sri Uttara Chatrasarudra Rishi Mahasarasvati Devi Devata Unastup Chanda Bhima Shakti Brahmari Bijam Suryastatvam Mahadeva Svarupam Mahasarasvati Prityare Uttaracharita Pate Vinyoge Dayanam Gantasula Halini Sanka Musala Shakram Dana Sayakam Hastabhyar Dayatim Ganata Vila Chatitam Stutlaya Prabham Gardea Sambhavam Trijagatam Adare Bhutam Mahapurva Matra Sarva Savatim Ajubaje Subade Dayudardinim Om Klim Riseruvacha Purasumba Nisumbayam Asurabhyam Sachipate Trilokyam Yagya Bhagascha Hrita Madabala Srayat Taveva Suryatam Tatvad Ahikaram Tataindavam Kalbaramata Yabhyam Cha Charate Vinodasya Cha Vaveva Pavana Dimcha Charak Turvanit Karmacha Tato Deva Vrinyodua Barasarajya Parajita Retadikara Striyadasyas Tabhyam Savena Vaktra Mahasurbhyam Tam Devim Samarantya Parajatim Tasyam Makam Varudatayata Pasu Smrita Kila Bhavatam Nasya Yisvayame Tatsanat Paramapada Iti Kritva Matim Deva Himavatam Nagesvaramam Jagmustara Tato Devim Vinumayam Pratustuva Devacha Namo Devye Mahadevye Shivaye Satatam Nama Nama Prakritye Badye Nitya Pranita Smatam Rudraye Namo Nitye Gauriye Datraye Namo Nama Josnaye Chandrupinaye Shukaye Satatam Nama Kalinye Pranatam Vidaye Siddhye Kurmo Namo Nama Netraye Bubratam Lakshmiye Sarvanyete Namo Nama Durgaye Durgaparaye Saraye Sarvakaranye Kyatye Tateva Krishnaye Drumraye Satatam Nama Atasomyate Rudraye Natastasye Namo Nama Namo Jagata Prishtaye Devye Kritye Namo Nama Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Vishnu Mayate Shabdita Namastasye 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 Namo Nama Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Chinanaya Bediate Namastasye 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 Namo Nama Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Buddherupina Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Nama Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Nidra Rupina Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Nama Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Kshuda Rupina Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Nama Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Chaya Rupina Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Nama Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Shakti Rupina Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Nama Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Trishna Rupina Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Nama Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Kshante Rupina Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Nama Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Jate Rupina Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Nama Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Laja Rupina Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Nama Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Shante Rupina Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Nama Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Sraddha Rupina Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Nama Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Kante Rupina Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Nama Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Lakshmi Rupina Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Nama Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Vritte Rupina Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Nama Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Smrite Rupina Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Nama Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Daya Rupina Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Nama Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Tuste Rupina Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Nama Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Mata Rupina Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Nama Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Brante Rupina Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Nama Indranayana Tishtatri Bhutanam Shakali Suya Bhutesham Satatam Tasye Vapya Devye Namo Nama Chitterupina Ya Kristame Vapyastita Jagat Namastasye 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 Namo Nama Shutstuta Share Purvama Bista Samrayat Tata Surendrena Trisnesu Sevita Kato Sana Sabyaheter Ishvari Sabyani Bandraya bani hatu chabeda. Ya sampratam chodata dayat taparita. Asamaberishi surya namastasye. Ya cha smrita tat kasameva hantena. Salvaprado bhakti vinma Mritirubhya Risiruvacha Evam Stavadi Yuktanam Devanam Tatra Pavati Snatumbaya Yotoye Janavaya Nipandana Sabra Vitvan Suran Subir Bhavadi Sukyate Traka Sarira Kotas Chaya Samudbhuta Bhavichiva Stotram Mata Mamitat Kritye Subhadayan Karta Devya Samata Samare Nishumbena Parajita Sarira Kostayat Tasya Pavatya Nirstambika Kaustit Kiti Tramestu Tato Laksho Giyate Tasyam Virgatyam Tu Krishna Bhutsape Parvati Kalakete Samekayita Hamchala Kritstaya Tatombikam Paramrupam Bibranam Samarham Darsya Chando Mundascha Bitya Sumba Nisumbayo Tabiyam Subaya Chakyata Tiva Samantara Kapyate Stri Maharaja Bayasyanti Himachalam Naivataduk Kavadurkam Duttam Kenachi Dudamam Nayatam Kapyaso Devi Gritayam Charestrara Sri Ratnamate Chavangi Dyotayanti Devi Stvida Satu Tisate Dayendratam Bhavandrastu Mati Yani Ratnani Mayano Gaja Vradini Vai Prabho Trilokestu Samastani Sampradam Banti Kegri Aryavata Samanito Garadnam Parandarat Parijata Tarochayam Tato Veoch Chayad Sarvahatya Vimanam Hamsa Samyuktam Etastatine Nagadne Ratnam Bhutmim Nantam Yashid Vehasoda Bhutam Nidharesya Mahapadma Samanto Dranesvarat Kijalanim Dada Chadir Malamamla Napa Nikajam Chatram Te Varunam Gei Kancha Sadvi Tristati Tatiyam Svandanavaroya Purasit Pajabita Mrityoru Krantida Nama Sriti Krisat Vayarta Pusha Salan Rajisha Baratustava Paringhe Nishumbasya bedi jatasya samasta ratna jatatya vanirpidadu tubhyam agni sase chavasi evam daitrendra ratni mastan vartaniti siratnasye nasyamesa kalyane tvaya kasmane greyati risiruvacha nisameyati vachastumbasa tadak chanda mundayo presayamasa sugrivam davdutam devya manhasuram ichettiva vatavya chagavat vachanmama yata chabhyate sampritya tata karyam tarya lagu satatra gatva yastraste selodeseti sobhane sadevitam tata praha shakanam badhuraya gira dutavacha Devi dayast vara sambastrilokya parameshvara dutoham prasidstena tvat shaka samagata avyahate jana sarvasyo yasada devayonisho nirjita kiladaitri Ari sayadaha smrutvatat mama trilokyamam kahim mahadevya vasonoga vajna brabhangim yavanupasnami patak triloke varaname mama Vasyan yastabhyata tateva garjat nam charitva devendra vadhanam kisirodamatanod butam asvaratanam mama malaya uchai sarvas Manjam tat manipatya sarmapitam yanechandye devasu chandalvesyu ragesucha ratna bhutani tani mayava sobani Sri Ratna Bhutam Tvam Devi Loke Manyamahe Vayam Satvamas Manchopagdacha Yatoratna Bhujavayam Mava Manusnujam Vapinishumba Muruve Karanam Bhajatvam Chandalak Pangi Ratna Bhusati Vayata Paramai svara mantulam prapasyema paritkarhat etad budya samlochana maha matparagantem varaja risiruvacha ituyukta satada devi gambiranta smita jagal Durga Bhagavati Bhadra Yadam Yarate Jagat Devi Uvacha Satyam Muktam Tvasyanata Natra Mitya Kinchitva Yoditam Trilokya Hidpati Sumbo Nishumba Chapi Tadirya Kim Tvatrayat parjinatam mrityatat krite katam suyatamaba buddhivat prativna nakritapura yo mam jayati sangrame yo medapam vayapuhati yo me pradibalo loke sami bharta bharavishyate tada gacchato sambotra nisombolava mahesura mam jitva kim karenatapanim gritnao me lagu dutta vacha ala avaliptase I maivam tvam devi bruhi mahagrata triloki ka purmameste dagre sambani shumbayo anyesamape dayanam sarve devanavai yodi trisante samyuke devi kim puna stritra me kivikika indradye sakala devyas tashoresyam na samyuge sumbadinam kadnam tisham sri prayatyase sammukam tvam gacha mayotkada sarvan nishumba nishombo Keshya karsha niduta karavama gamisyasi Devi uvacha eva metad bali srumbo nisombascha viravayavan kim kromi prajatna me dayadan lochita pura Satvam gacha mayotam teya dit sarvamaduta tada chakrarendraya sacha yuktam karotu tat Om Om Aing Klim Chamundaye Viche 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 Namah. Feel the power of the verses and the mantras. Feel them filling your being, providing wisdom, protection, healing, guidance, and the relief of all difficulties. Feel the divine presence within and without. I invite you now to take a deep and clearing breath. Bring the palms of your hands together at your heart center. Om Sana Vavatu Sana Bunaktu Saviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Mavid Vijavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Blessings always. I invite you to slowly open your eyes. Namaste and Jai Mata Di. Thank you for joining me. We actually got through the longest chapter in the scripture in this hour. And at 1 o'clock, we'll begin the next broadcast, chapter 6, and we will do the shortest chapter of the scripture. So hopefully I'll see you in a few minutes, either here live or when you're watching the recording. Blessings always. Jai Mata Di. See you soon.